So that's pretty much the first year of Valhalla complete after the most recent 1.4 update, and we'll be very shortly transitioning into year 2. I mean, arguably, you could actually say that we're already in year 2 now, but either way, it seems like there is a lot of official announcements just about to hit our screens in the next couple weeks going into the holiday season, including a suspected nod to this potential Kassandra story arc on the Isle of Skye, which we're going to talk about in this video. Now, if this is the first time you're hearing about Kassandra appearing in Valhalla and you've got no idea what I'm saying or what's going on, then I would really encourage you to check out these 2 videos already on the channel, as they kind of go over everything we know from a speculative standpoint so far, and then come back to this one as it kind of builds on the info that we know already. This means I don't repeat myself and waste your time if you're already up to speed so far, and that's essentially about Eivor meeting Kassandra on the Isle of Skye in Scotland, and then they go on to find a piece of Eden. Additionally, all of this info that we do chat about here has been found in the game files by Peder, and even though he's been spot on throughout the whole year regarding future content, he'll even say himself, this info is very subject to change, it is speculative and not yet confirmed. So spoiler alert as a heads up here, folks, but equally it is good fun to talk about and speculate on, so let's get going. Now let's start first with the questline and what it's going to be called, because just like previous updates, they have all had some sort of launch title, such as the Tombs of the Fallen being one of the most recent examples, and it seems like the meeting with Eivor and Kassandra will actually be called a fated encounter, and that's just going on from what Peder has actually told me, what he's found in the game files, and this does look like it's going to be a standalone bonus quest from Ubisoft. In fact, what has become available since the last update is the Codex entries regarding this questline, and in reference to actual previous updates in Valhalla, Codex entries are only preloaded to the game files when a launch is imminent or very close to actually being ready to ship for consumers, and I'm going to talk about the release date of this content very shortly. But we do have a specific Kassandra Valhalla Codex entry here, which is very promising, as well as the location itself, that being the Isle of Skye, and Edith, who's the seer who actually looks after all of the local inhabitants on the Isle of Skye, and is the person who initially visits Ravensthorpe and lobbies Eivor for help. Now, I'm not going to read each one out as they're fairly long, but I will keep them up on your screen now so you can kind of have a perusal at your own leisure. It's definitely worth a read. Now, let's talk about some of the modern day stuff, which I'm sure a few of you are going to be a bit bamboozled at hearing that, because it hasn't featured at all this year in any sort of the DLCs or any sort of free title updates as far as I'm aware. And that's because Peder has actually found notes that presumably imply that they are actually read while we're outside the Animus. Now, when you are actually Layla or Basim, you can actually explore around the cabin and read notes, emails and doodles from different characters in the game, and it seems no different here, as there's 2 notes which are both called Note Regarding Kassandra. Now, I am going to go ahead and read these because I think it really does actually add to the conversation. I think you'll actually find them quite interesting, to be fair. So the first one says, the great eagle bearer travelled all the way to the land of the Picts, and I wonder what else the legendary mercenary might have accomplished after leaving Greece centuries ago. Alethea's memory was well accompanied by Kassandra, and I only wish it could have been me instead. Now, our second one then goes on to say that this must be a first. Eivor actually met Kassandra. This means that Layla, as an Animus host, met a previous Animus host in the simulation. So could Layla have noticed anything odd in the Animus brought on by Kassandra's sudden appearance? Not only that, but could the staff have sensed Layla's presence as its current keeper? I have so many questions for her. And that's just it. I've actually got so many questions for you lot. What do you make of all this? Another Animus host in the simulation sounds pretty exciting. And who are these notes actually written by? Is it Rebecca, is it Sean, or perhaps someone else entirely? But I'll tell you what I think. I think Reddit is actually at the heart of all this. He's been mugging us off recently with all of this rubbish weekly resets, and I'll actually go as far to suggest that he's exactly like Jar Jar Binks, who's suspected to be an incredibly powerful undercover Sith Lord in Star Wars, that absolute bandit. Now, jokes aside, there is a lot of mental gymnastics going on here, so in all seriousness, it would be great to hear your thoughts down below in the comments, and I'm really looking forward to getting your opinions on this. Now, we also did discuss Kassandra coming up against some sort of Greek masked cultists in the previous video, and they actually said to Kassandra that the blood of the old god in your veins is not meant to walk these lands, mercenary. But Peder has actually also found another entry here from these Greek cultists which state the Apple of Eden belongs to another mercenary, which I think does confirm that this is indeed a Apple of Eden in some sort of temple on the Isle of Skye and not just a piece of Eden. Additionally, just as we've seen in the latest Tomb of the Fallen update with these illusions and previous historical figures in the Isu temple making an appearance, it is looking like we're going to pick up something similar in this particular update or DLC or side quest, whatever you want to call it, because Kassandra goes on to say that it's an illusion caused by the artifact, which would make sense and continue this kind of Tombs of the Fallen illusion template going forward for future side quest updates. Now, let's actually move on and talk about the hidden ones, and from a fan and on a personal level, I genuinely hope that we pick up some sort of substantial content regarding them in the future. future. But what is cool is that Pedder's actually found Eivor and Kassandra briefly talking about them, and it seems like Kassandra says to Eivor, "You favour other weapons too, where did you get that blade?" And I'm assuming here that she's actually referencing the hidden blade, to which Eivor then replies, "Oh, I take it you're one of the hidden ones then," which then Kassandra laughs off and says, "Well, not exactly, but I admire their work, and I've got friends who actually are hidden ones. Often my goals align with theirs, and I assume the same is true for you." Now, Eivor's reply actually surprised me, because Eivor goes on to say, "Yes, I agree with their goals and have made friends with them. Perhaps we may have more in common than we thought." So do we get some sort of foreshadowing here? Is this game file entry, which is very subject to change by the way folks, do remember that, but is this a first glimpse at Eivor leaning towards the Hidden Ones over the Templar Order, that being Alfred's new secret order founded on those strong Christian principles? And I think it's more food for thought here, and I'm sure quite a lot of you are going to be quite pleased about that. Let's just hope that that conversation and dialogue does make it into the game. I hope there's more to it. Now, we do have lots more to discuss here, but if you have found any value in the video so far or learned anything new at all, if you wouldn't mind, a very swift like down below. Only takes a second of your time, and it genuinely is the best way to show your support, as these videos do take a bit of time to whip up for you, so thank you very much. Now, we also did talk about the hero's sword in the previous Kassandra video as well, but I just want to let you know that Pedder and Ibsarb have found the actual model of it, so I'm told. So thanks to them for getting these pictures and footage across to us so we can actually have a closer look at this hero's sword. Of course, we don't have any stats yet, just the visual model, but I wouldn't be surprised if this is actually part of the new weapon class Jose, the post-launch producer for Valhalla, mentioned to Yor in an interview. And I reckon this may be the new weapon class that kind of has paired perks, where you're going to have to actually equip two weapons to combine the perks together to kind of make them work. And an example of that would be the recent Shinobi Helix pack that will actually have to equip two katanas to get the full benefit of them. But I think we're just going to have to wait and see what actually happens regarding this hero sword and perhaps this new weapon class coming to this update. I've also popped the link to that interview from Yor in the description, by the way, and if you haven't watched it, it's definitely worth your time, so do check it out. Now, there is a couple more interesting things here, and it looks like Eivor and Kassandra do crash a wedding on the Isle of Skye. They also have a drinking contest with one another, and Kassandra even explains to Eivor what malaka is. She actually says it's a Greek swear word, it's malaka, spelling it out phonetically while they're having a few beers or iron brews. And actually, speaking of iron brew, Pedder has found reference to the famous and unique Scottish drink being called the Iron Brew Mines, and if this does actually come to the game, not sure what it's going to contain, then good work from Ubisoft, I say. I appreciate all the small details and Easter eggs that they put into their environments. Also, I know a lot of you have been asking if we'd be able to pick Alexios instead of Kassandra with this event if it does come to the game, especially if you chose to play as Alexios in Odyssey. Now, Pedder hasn't actually found any entries at all referencing Alexios, and if Kassandra is just an NPC in this side content, I can't honestly see us having control whether that's going to be Alexios or Kassandra. I don't think that we're going to be able to choose the model of an NPC, if that kind of makes sense. But to be honest with you, I think Ubisoft are going to actually go forward with their canon version, which is Kassandra, and I know it's a very contentious topic in the community, so don't shoot the messenger here. This could very well change as we're going on what's been found in the game file so far, so the honest answer to you is we just don't really know, and we're just going to have to wait and see what Ubisoft decide to do, which I think brings us really nicely onto the release date. And when is this actually all going to be coming out? Well, again, another straight up answer for you and no bamboozling around. We just do not know, in all honesty, but what we can do is identify small nuances or additions to the game files which historically only appear on the eve of a title release or any sort of major update inbound, and that's the Codex entries, more dialogue options, and map locations, for example. And we actually have all of that information regarding this side content thanks to Pedder, so I wouldn't be surprised if this releases in December alongside an announcement for the next Dawn of Ragnarok DLC. The idea being that this Kassandra side quest would bring people back into the Valhalla game to play, and then potentially encourage them to sign on for another season pass. Which, speaking of which, I do think the season pass is going to cost money, by the way. I know a lot of you in the comments have also asked. Obviously that isn't confirmed, but I can't see it being free. I mean, it would be a very pleasant surprise if it was free, but yeah, I just think it's really unlikely that it's going to be a freebie season pass, to be honest with you. Now, I'll tell you what's unlikely though, and that's me not continuing to cover Valhalla content. So if you did enjoy this video and you want to be the first to know what's going on with this game, the speculative and official announcements coming forward, do consider clicking the notification bell so you can find your way back to the channel easily. And our big thanks go out to Peda and Ibsarp, who have both put in another stellar shift for us and have brought us this new information to talk about and speculate on. And I'd also like to thank I Like Detectives for sharing some awesome Kassandra photos. Link to her portfolio is in the description, definitely worth a perusal. And if you haven't already, do come and join our awesome Discord community of over 700 people. There really is some fantastic dudes and dudettes here, and it would be outstanding to see you in the lobby. Anyway, I think that's going to do it for me, folks. I really do hope you enjoyed the video. I'm sure I'll see you in the next one, but this time, Iron Brew is most definitely on me.